Okay, guys, so I just heard something, and I'm sure a lot of the older crowd has already heard of this, but I'm just now finding out, and y'all know I like to talk shit, so here I am. Okay, so previous governor Bobby Jindal, he was technically the first American Indian man to be taken seriously as a candidate for president. He was also, governor of Louisiana, but what you might not know about him is that he witnessed an exorcism in college. See, his parents were Hindu. He converted to Christianity as a teen. And he said this experience in college kind of really solidified his belief in the, spiritual entities, and I believe Christianity also. Now, he even wrote a paper on it. And he talks about his friend Susan. And basically she was like speaking other languages. He even said she smelled like sulfur, and there were signs there. And it was he and a bunch of friends that kind of like witnessed it. She fell on the floor, convulsing, saying crazy shit, like, an exorcism probably would. And they all began praying. And I'm gonna quote Bobby on this, just so you guys kind of really get a good understanding of what's going on. Alright, so this is an article from the Washington Post. This was back in 1994. The now 44-year-old had just finished studying at Oxford University as a Rhodes Scholar. He moved to Washington to work in the major consulting firm McKinsey. He wrote a piece in the Catholic magazine, the New Oxford Review, titled "Beating a Demon: Physical Dimensions of Spiritual Warfare." In it, Jindal described a woman and a fellow Christian he had befriended at Brown. He kind of liked Susan. Jindal says he changed some of the names in the story, but was afraid of committing to her. So they just stayed friends. Over a period of a few weeks, Susan found out one of her close friends at home had committed suicide, and that she had skin cancer. Shortly after that, Jindal said Susan started having visions, smelling like sulfur. Sulfur, Jindal noted, supposedly accompanies the devil. But he didn't piece it all together until a meeting of friends praying for Susan's health. Susan was there to receive the prayers. And we'll let Jindal take it from here. Suddenly, Susan emitted some strange guttural sounds, fell on the floor. She started thrashing about as if in some sort of seizure. Susan's sister must have recognized what was happening, for she ordered us to gather around and place our hands on Susan's prostrate body. Now, for those of you who don't know, laying hands on someone is little more than praying. It's putting everything about, any bit of prayers and energy you have into that person. I tentatively approached the group and placed the edge of my fingertip on her shoulder. In a voice I'd never heard before or since, Susan accused me. "Bobby, you cannot even love Susan." The students, led by Susan's sister and Louise, a member of a charismatic church, engaged in a loud and desperate prayer while holding Susan with one hand. Kneeling on the ground, one of my friends were chanting, "Satan, I command you to leave this woman." Others exhorted all demons to leave in the name of Christ. Whenever I concentrated long enough to begin prayer, I felt some type of physical force distracting me. It was as if something was pushing me down on my chest, making it very hard for me to breathe. Being a biology major at the time, I greeted this feeling with skepticism and rational explanations. I checked my pulse for signs of nervousness, wondered what could cause such a sensation. Shortness of breath is a common symptom that can mean very little or may signal the onset of a fatal stroke. Though I could not find no cause for my chest pains, I was very scared of what was happening to me and Susan. I began to think the demon would only attack me if I tried to pray or fight back. Thus I resigned myself to leaving it alone in an attempt to find peace for myself. The students dared Susan to read Bible passages. This was a really common thing that people especially used to use, over the centuries. It was believed that if you couldn't, say a whole prayer, or you couldn't finish the Lord's Prayer, then the devil was basically in you were possessed, or something of that nature, or you were a witch. That was a big one for the Salem witch trials. That's something they used to do. And there have been people who even could say the whole prayer and still got hanged or killed anyways. I guess whoever was doing all of it wasn't satisfied, so they're like, kill him anyways. But, back to Susan. Okay. Just as suddenly as she went into the trance, Susan suddenly reappeared and claimed Jesus as Lord. With an almost comical smile, Susan then looked up as if awakening from a deep sleep and asked, "Has something happened?" Oh, y'all, I skipped a line. Sorry, hold on. The students dared Susan to read Bible passages. She choked on certain passages and could not finish the sentence. Jesus is Lord. Over and over, she repeated, Jesus is la 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 la, often ending in profanities. Just as suddenly as she went into the trance, Susan suddenly reappeared and claimed Jesus is Lord. With an almost comical smile, Susan then looked up as if awakening from a deep sleep and asked, "Has something happened?" Jindal ended the piece saying the experience solidified his belief in the reality of spirits, angels, and other related phenomena. And, okay, while interesting, this story hasn't been the topic of much conversation during Jindal's political career. When he first was running for governor in 2007, liberal bloggers dug up the New Oxford Review piece. The Louisiana Democratic Party announced it would run ads attacking Jindal for some of his religious writings in college, but it would leave the apparent exorcism out of it. The story did come up in 2009 when Jindal gave the Republican response to President Obama's address to the nation. By the time Jindal was getting talked up as the potential vice president pick in 2012, the New Orleans Times-Picayune asked his office about it. A spokeswoman didn't respond to specific questions, but released a statement from Jindal. "I wrote a lot of stuff in high school and college," he said at the time. "While other kids were out partying, I was reading and writing. I'm sure some of that stuff is goofy. I just hope they didn't review my grade school work." In all of this, it's worth emphasizing that Jindal never called the experience an exorcism. Also, it's important to note that the Catholic Church that Jindal and 21% of Americans belong to embrace the practice of exorcism. Yeah, and this is important too. Last year, Pope Francis officially recognized the International Association of Exorcists, a group of 200 priests who regularly perform them. The church has an official exorcism manual. Mother Teresa had an exorcism performed on her before she died. In Britain, each Catholic diocese keeps an exorcist on hand. Okay. So, from what I'm gathering, Jindal, he was like a political representative. I get it. He's not one to say, yeah, I did an exorcism, because most people, I don't think, even if you do believe, a lot of people aren't willing to just take that as is. So, he kind of probably had to brush it off a little bit and pretend like, it wasn't really anything. So, I do understand that. It's a little unfortunate, that he doesn't come back and say something about it now, but that was quite interesting. I never even knew that. And, oh yeah, by the way, I want to let y'all know that article is from a few years ago, so this wasn't like, super recent. This article was from 2015. Well, I am a Christian, and I definitely believe in angels, demons, and all that, and I do believe that exorcisms happen a lot more than we know. I just don't think a lot of people take them seriously. And I also believe that people with mental health problems can probably easily be susceptible to something like that. But also, I'm not going to sit here and say that everybody who's claiming to be possessed is possessed. But I do believe that it happens. It can definitely happen. And props to Bobby. Pretty cool, dude. Not many people say they can perform an exorcism. I mean, honestly, I believe you could have done a little bit more, but anyways, y'all, so that's all for now. Oh, and, no, hold on now. Okay, Mother Teresa, I can guarantee you the reason she was actually exorcised is because she was an awful person. Which is ironic because Mother Teresa is like the patron saint of all goodness and stuff. But she has been involved in child trafficking for like decades before she died. So she probably needed like 6 exorcisms, honestly, if you ask me. She is no saint. Neither was it Gandhi? Yeah, I think it was Gandhi. Gandhi used to like sleep like with his, daughters, nieces, something like that. And like while they were he would sleep with young girls naked, by the way, so that he can resist the temptation. But, like, yeah, it's weird. Ironically, a lot of these saints and holy people weren't very holy to begin with, which I believe that's why they were propped up in the first place. Anyways, that's all for now, guys.